Hello, everybody. Panel time.
That's a big...
Really impressed that there's so many people here still.
Me too.
Couple of quick questions, maybe 3 quick questions. Number one, give me an idea how many of you have been through and completed a successful token offering or ICO? There's some here. Can you see that?
Yep.
How many of you are planning or would love to get through a successful token offering ICO? Yeah, cool. So, good group there. How many of you want to drink beer with Whitey Cracker in about a half hour or so? Yeah, me too. So we'll make this short as we can. On the panel here, some familiar faces I'm sure to everybody. Vinny from Civic, who's our, let's say, founder that successfully has completed an ICO. Nancy Wojtas from Cooley on the legal side, who represents some of the brightest people on the regulatory compliance side. We have Stan over here from Element Group, who has taken a number of companies through the process on the iBanking side, if I can say that, Stan. And then we have Eric Doyle here, who represents the marketing and communication side from Spark Chain division. So I'm going to start it off. This guy on the side here next to me, my co-pilot, but okay, we'll start it with Vinny, the guy that's taken his company through this process. So Vinny, lessons learned or some important things that every founder, every CEO should be thinking about as they make their way through the token offering process.
I actually have a lot of lessons learned. I wrote a couple of blog posts about it. You can check my blog, vinnylingham.com, where I've detailed a lot of my experiences and what made it work, I think, and where we think we did the right thing and how we put it out there. I think, look, obviously going into it, I didn't know anything about running an ICO, and it was just a learning experience. And it was interesting because it was compressed learning, like literally no sleep in hotel rooms in New York until 3 a.m. Stan was with us. It was kind of crazy times. And the one thing I will say is just surround yourself with people who are really smart and can give you great advice. So we had our law firm, we had advisory, we had 2 advisory firms, one on the technical side, one on the business side and the deal side, and we were just learning as we went along. We kind of make up things along the way as well because there was just no one else had done it before and no one else had done it this way. So I think it's more about experimenting, learning, but we're at a different point now. There's been hundreds of these that have been done, and there are some best practices that are emerging. So don't try and reinvent the wheel either. Go and look at what successful companies have done and try and apply that and improve the model if you can. Take it a step further. I mean, one of the things we did was try to balance, selling out our tokens, but also not being concentrated in the hands of, 20 people or 50 people. So we did a pre-sale with 400 buyers who basically guaranteed the whole $33 million. And then we carved out a third of that, $11 million. And we said, okay, well, the biggest public sale right now hasn't sold this much to anyone. Let's put out $11 million, and whatever's not sold, we've already got guaranteed buyers for it. And we wound up selling all that out as well. So then from that, the guys at 0x, they use our technology at Civic to run their own ICO. And they improved on that model by having everyone pre-register ahead of time. And I think that they allowed everyone to buy, $1,500 each or something worth of tokens, and they had an even bigger distribution pool than we did. So it's going from a situation where you had initially few buyers with large amounts to just masses of people buying smaller amounts, which is very good for liquidity in the aftermarket as well. So these are the sorts of things which I would encourage people to think about and do.
Okay. Yeah, I know, Vinny, in the circles that I've gone through, congratulations, because I hear of the process that you went through at that time to be very much a measuring stick for a lot of other ICOs. So great job there.
Thanks.
And Stan, I bet there's a lot of companies that are contacting you in hoping that they can take their company through this process as well. What are some of the things that you look for in a company that approaches you? What are some of the main components that absolutely need to be in place before you'll even maybe return their call?
Yeah, absolutely. So The business is moving and shifting so quickly. So what was a standard back when Vinny and I started working together in May to what the standard is now in October is actually very, very different. And so the companies that are coming through now, at least in the US, are actually much more mature businesses. We talk to many more growth stage companies versus startups. No one with a pitch deck is passing the legal standard now required, given all the regulatory guidance and the guardrails that are continuing to narrow. And so what we see now from the market is a demand for real actionable products, and you have essentially the standard of immediate consumptive utility. So if you're talking about doing a utility token versus a security, what you want is something that's actually functional day one or right after that. And so that's the first filter is, are you building a real product? Does it exist? Is there a test net? Is there an alpha? Are there users using it? So that's step one. Step two is what you're doing organic to the blockchain? Or are you just tacking on tokens because you have no other funding mechanisms, or because it's some sort of a meta play, or you're just kind of strategically lost at sea? And so having a business that's kind of based around the blockchain, where it's at the core, where the token is actually necessary, where there's a strong decentralization thesis, that's what the core universe of buyers is actually looking for. And then, we have taxonomies around different protocols and different platforms and different dApps, and all of those are in play. What we see in the market is a slight preference for more fundamental projects that are solving kind of baseline, sort of deep in the stack problems. And those obviously have much more popularity because they're much more ambitious, and they're addressing markets that are theoretically fundamentally larger. So you have a total addressable market not in the billions but in the trillions. And so when we talk to founders, these are the types of things we're looking for, but also the core things you would think about as a VC, for example. Is this a strong technical team? Are all the pieces in place? Have they been around long enough to actually make a dent in the space? And then you look at other social cues. What is the following on Reddit? Do they have real credibility? A lot of purchasers now are actually looking at GitHub. In the public GitHub, what is there anything there?
Yeah.
And if there's not, you have to answer those questions. And so it's a combination of all these factors, and now a market that's very rapidly maturing, both on the legal side, on the structural side, and process side. So shifting market and really fundamentally strong real businesses.
The bar's really risen. It seems like it rises just a little bit more every day, every week.
That's right.
One of the more difficult areas for a lot of these companies to face, Nancy, are all the legal compliance, regulatory issues. I know we don't have nearly enough time to cover the details, but what are some of the most important considerations when a company is moving towards a token offering and they have to consider and face those type of legal questions?
So you have a variety of issues. You have securities laws issues, which you're all familiar with the Howey test. The SEC is very definitely looking at this. Canada's looking at it. So we need to be very clear that you have a consumptive use at the time you do your public token sale. I encourage companies to do a pre-sale, do a larger pre-sale than they're contemplating, at least half of what they think the total raise is going to be. Take the time to actually develop that network and make sure it works by the time you do that public sale. You have tax issues that haven't been grappled yet with, accounting, there's AML, money laundering issues that you have to be concerned about. When you pre-registration is a great process to do in order to alleviate some government entity coming in and telling you, hey, you were funded by terrorists at this point. You have know your customer rules. You have OFAC that you have to be concerned about. You have money transmitter laws that need to be considered when you're doing this. And that's just in the US. And then there are 50 states that you have to consider if in fact you are doing things with that cryptocurrency. So there are a variety of laws that need to be addressed before you even think about your public token sale. And it needs to be a really well thought out process. We just finished one where the board heard about it the first time in February, and it closed September 12th. And they had 10,000 people purchase in their public sale from 117 countries. They really wanted a broad distribution. And, we think we did it right. We're waiting for the regulators to call because I'm sure they will. They are interested. They're contracting what they're looking at right now. Dow was an easy an easy case. The two recent ones that the SEC just came out with, where the guy was just a fraudster, selling diamonds, coins secured by diamonds. First it was real estate, then he moved it to diamonds when he figured out he couldn't do it for real estate. So you have to be careful on what you're doing. We won't do securities tokens. We only do utility tokens.
Interesting. Wow, lots to cover there. So Eric, let's assume you have a founder like Vinny working with an iBanker like Stan, and Nancy's team is given the legal go-ahead. From a marketing and communications standpoint, what are the components that are necessary in your mind to get through a successful token offering?
Sure. I think holistically, it starts with three main areas: earned media, owned media, and paid media. And it's really getting all three of those areas to fire on all cylinders. And on the earned side, really starting strategically with a solid messaging foundation from which to draw a core narrative that you can talk about your business and your value proposition in a different way to the market than some of the competitors. And then also a key part is media relations, and whether it's the crypto, blockchain, trade press, even to the business tech press as well, having a solid strategy in place to promote the pre-sale, talk about the pre-sale, brag about the results to the media if the pre-sale has gone well, and then also generating hopefully at that stage you will have a white paper. There's certain blog post content that you can pitch to the media as part of that, and then integrating paid display advertising, especially on a lot of the crypto sites where a lot of potential token holders are reading and interested in ICOs. Making sure that you're listed on a lot of the ICO listing sites as well is an important part of it. And then another big part is the social part, making sure that you're supporting your communications on the right channels, not just on every single social channel that there is, but thinking carefully about your target buyers and the audience you want to influence and where they're active on social. That's it.
Can I throw the cat amongst the pigeons? So, the full disclaimer, SparkPR is actually my PR company, and they do a great job. So I'm a big fan of PR and media relations, and if you watch my tweets, it's like I'm more interested in the influencing side of getting the media attention around what you're doing. As an investor in these token sales and ICOs, I can almost, in fact, I will say I've never bought any token sale if I saw an ad.
Yeah.
Kind of on principle. The best stuff that I've bought is stuff that you guys have not even heard about. Because it's so good, it goes into the private pre-sale market with select people in Silicon Valley and the networks, and it doesn't go public at that point. And by the time it goes public, it's like, like Filecoin was just oversold massively. They didn't even need to advertise. So one of the warning flags for me personally is when I see paid media around an ICO. And that's just as someone who's a more sophisticated buyer of these things, because the problem I've got with it is it's really easy to convince dumb money to get into something by using paid media and getting that, because there's no real influence. They see an ad, they click on it, they go put money in. Now, it doesn't mean that all the projects running ads are bad. In fact, some of them they just don't know how to market or get the influence around what they're doing. The problem is that it creates this hype factor and hype cycle, which I believe is going to, in some cases, and it's hard to tell which ones, it's going to attract government regulators to come in. And that's the concern. And if a government regulator comes in and says, did you buy paid media on this thing? And did Granny lose her life savings on it, or whatever the case is? Your coin goes to zero at that point. Like, it can get shut down. So I'm more concerned about the fact that the paid media can lead to that. And again, it's not about all of them. I don't have the time to do the diligence on every single one and be comfortable that it's okay. So I don't buy the stuff that has paid media. It's just personal preference. Yeah. So if you're running ads, don't bother emailing me.
Yeah.
So media is only one issue, though. The other one is where you have a group of guys out there, much like the boiler rooms.
Shilling it, yeah.
Yes. I had a company call me telling, this is the only way we're going to go. Going, no way. I said, you want the regulators in your door? Just use that. Go ahead, right?
Absolutely. So I've had market makers come to me. I've had everyone come to me try and like pump the Civic token or get me to pay them to do. We didn't take a single paid ad, and we had over $100 million worth of demand. We only took 33 in. Okay, not a single paid ad. And post being listed on Bittrex and Poloniex, like we've done no market making. I don't care. The price can just find its level value. But if you go into some of these Telegram rooms and these pump and dump schemes, these guys are going to get taken down. And so my advice to all of you out there is just do it honestly. Do not go and buy, even though you may think, oh, it's great, you'll get the money or you get more money. It's part of like the mission for the company and you'll do good in the world. It's about how you do things, not what you do. Okay? And just keep that in mind. There's a slippery slope here, and this is an industry that's under a lot of regulatory scrutiny, and you do not want to be on the wrong side of the law here.
And it'll
Great
be,
points.
hey, everybody's doing it this way, Nancy. Honest, that's what they're telling me.
Don't worry, the jails are pretty big.
That's what I keep telling them. Look, you'll look good in orange.
I do think another point I didn't mention first time around is I think it is important to have some basic incentivizing potential token buyers to be interested in your ICO. Aside from just the value prop that you're talking about, there's things, bounty campaigns where you can reward token buyers for taking certain actions, whether it's downloading a piece of content, sharing content. I think that is a small percentage of the total tokens, but it is an effective way to generate interest.
For the record, and I think Stan is probably, I can see he's going to jump in and say something now.
Say no.
But for the record, like we did no paid ads. We did obviously some work.
No bounty.
Work with Spark on some PR and communications, and we did no bounties and zero discounts. Not even our investors in the company got a discount. Not a single person got a discount for our Civic tokens. They went out at 10 cents to absolutely everyone, and we focused on the distribution of it to make sure it was fair. But I can see Stan's about to say something.
I was going to abstain. I was going to play nice. No, I think you set up the platinum standard for an offering, right? But not everybody has your megaphone, right? So or your network, and so I think
or microphone.
In a market where we have 20, 30 offerings coming, let's say every week, it's hard to cut through the noise, and it's getting harder. And so I think especially in a case where you're looking for broad distribution, you kind of have to fish where the fish are. And so you have to look at the communities that you want to address, depending on what blockchain vertical you're in or what application layer you're playing in, and then go to Reddit, go to Bitcoin Talk, go where their organic communities are, go to the Telegram channels, and work with that community and get them engaged.
And I agree. I agree with that. My point is, don't get the dumb money to come in, because that's the way you fill up the run. Like, rather focus on, think about it this way. If you go to a whole bunch of really smart people in the space, early adopters, early buyers, and you cannot convince them to buy this thing that you're selling and get one of their names up on your site saying, hey, I support this project, etc., whether it's myself or Brock or Vitalik or whoever, pick a name on the list. If you can't get one of those people on the front saying they're putting real money in at whatever, at the current price. And again, one of the things to be careful of is don't give it to them at a 90% discount, because that's just ridiculous. Just some people I won't take those. I won't take those deals where there's these huge discounts or even free. I don't do advisory work anymore either. I don't take free tokens from companies anymore. I've done 2 of them for advisory work, and the problem is the moment they do something I disagree with, then I'm conflicted. If I pull out, I damage the process, and if I stay in, I don't agree with it. So I don't do advisory work. I'm happy to buy my tokens. I'm happy to buy it at the disclosed pre-sale discount price. It's, so these are important things. But the point is, if you can convince people who know what they're doing to put the money into your project and stand behind you, you will convince the other people in the industry, and eventually you don't need to go to the dumb money that's out there to get money in because you're doing what you're doing works. And if you can't convince people, at least people who understand what they're doing, you have to ask yourself, what are you doing and why can't you convince them? And I'm not saying that, look, the thing about angel investing, and I've done a lot of angel investing, is that you just need to convince one person to believe in you. But if you can't convince one person, that's a problem. VCs are a much higher bar. They want traction, they want a whole bunch of other things before they write a bigger check. But angels for 25, 50K checks, there's a lot of us out there that will put money in. And so if you can't convince one person in the top 50 or 100 lists of blockchain influencers, people who understand what they're doing, you've got a problem.
But that's why you have to be really strategic when you're doing your pre-sales, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the point. You can't don't offer the pre-sale to the general public. That doesn't work. Go to the people who you think would be interested. And everyone's busy, and 9 times out of 10, I'll reject stuff. But if the one I do get, I put my name behind it. These guys at least feel that they've got, some, call it additional credibility or some validation on their business model. I mean, it's not that it's not going to fail. At least someone believes that the team and the project's got a chance of succeeding versus, like people just saying this is crazy and it's never going to work.
How does that scale, Vinny? I mean, from a standpoint of we started the year or ended last year with a few $100 million invested in, token offerings. This year will exceed $2 billion. I mean, where's it going? Is it gonna? What's the number in your mind that you're pretty good at predicting? What's the number in your mind of, let's say it's 2.2 billion this year, and I'm making that number up, in token offerings. What's it going to be next calendar year?
So we have to look at it from a slightly different lens, okay? You've got call it $2 billion this year, raised during a wild, wild west phase, okay? Now there's a filtration process. Now you're moving into regulated blockchain-based securities that are issued. The friction's higher, the source of funds changes, and like, for example, China's blocked ICOs, regulations are coming in around the world. That number, in terms of if you just look at it from the lens that was $2 billion in unregulated token sales and ICOs, it's gonna come down to some small number, a couple of $100 million, whatever it is, next year. Okay, but it's going to flow into regulated ICOs, securities, and tokens. You've got T0 from Overstock. You've got a couple of other decentralized exchanges that are coming up with, it looks like it, regulated security trading. The issue right now, and I won't buy any, I bought one, but I won't buy any more, security tokens, because there's no way to trade it. There's no liquidity in the aftermarket right now. So why would I go and buy them? And that's putting off a lot of buyers if you go the securities route. But in the next 6 to 12 months, you're going to have outlets for these things to go into regular exchanges and be traded. And I think the size of that market could get to $5 or $10 billion a year in the next 3 to 5 years. It's just not going to happen right now. So just call it the unregulated token bubble right now. It's going to burst, but the value just shifts to different types of securities. And I think it's a good thing that it gets cleaned up, because otherwise it's going to be a mess. You're going to have more scams. You're going to have more people losing money in ways which they don't intend to.
So what do you think, Stan? Next calendar year, going up, down, more, less, equal? What's it going to look like?
Yeah, I think this capital market is here to stay for generations. And so I think the regulatory rails will certainly be built. The guardrails will narrow. But it'll take some shape that will continue. To me, this was kind of an open source coding community building an open source funding mechanism. And it really just kind of broke through. And what we see is a maturation of the market. So in this room today, there are many institutional buyers, investors, whatever you want to call them, but people that are looking through a very prescribed, focused, and educated lens at this space and trying to understand bottom up which projects make sense, which are the strong blockchains, the strong protocols. And I think that's a positive sign. And the same thing from projects, we're seeing lockups, we're seeing more interesting tiered structures, we're seeing reverse Dutch auction structures that really help you find the market price. And so I think this market will just keep maturing, and it's certainly here to stay. The number itself doesn't matter.
Yeah. So
Agreed.
I know we're running very close to time up. So Eric, Nancy, any thoughts about next year? Is it where's the market going in terms of size or whatever metric that you feel is important?
I think it'll probably be cut in half by next year. I think people will be more discerning about what they're investing in.
Okay.
So, and depending on what the other countries do, I mean, China's ban really impacted the crypto market. Then South Korea stepped in. Canada, notwithstanding their bullshit about, oh, we're behind tech innovation, it's bullshit. They consider everything securities. So one of mine, we ended up not selling to Canada just because of that.
Because of that, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. Eric, any closing thoughts? Because I know we're running out of time.
I'm going to go with the same school of fish here and say it's
Okay.
going down. Yeah, it seems pretty clear.
Okay. Sounds like higher quality opportunities, lower volume, and the bar's high. Are we in consensus on that topic?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
thumbs up. Okay, please,
Any audience questions?
I don't think we have time for any. You can catch these guys hanging around the floor for more questions, but please thank Eric, Stan, Nancy, and Vinny for a few minutes of their time.
Thanks, guys. Buckled in.